Now then, I'm back at TeamSport Stockton and today we're going to be taking part in the exclusive Grand Prix event. It's made up of a 15-minute practice session to find your feet, followed by a 15-minute qualifying session and finally a 15-minute sprint race. So, if you haven't got one already, go grab yourself a cuppa, get sat down and let's get into it. Today we've got the track all to ourselves. You need a minimum of 12 to book this Grand Prix event and we've ended up with 15, so we should have a good battle on our hands. There's a good mix of people here for this one, some you might have seen in one of my previous videos, but there are also a few newcomers racing with us today and some of them don't have any karting experience at all. With it being really cold, I know we're going to be seeing that yellow flag a lot, but as long as we get all of those out the way early doors, we should be laughing by the time it gets to the race. Practice went alright. Just as I thought, there were quite a few yellow flags as everyone got to terms with the grip levels. I mean, I'm not perfect, I got caught up in one of them as well, but that's what this session's for. Make your mistakes now and learn from them. By the time the kart had warmed up, practice was pretty much over and done with, and after a few daft overtakes, we were back to the pits getting ready for qualifying. The times were super off the pace of our best, but I'm just blaming the track temperatures. Now, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I think George has taken this quali session quite serious. I've never seen anyone warm the tyres up like this before, but fair play. I resorted to the traditional way of doing things by weaving around like a good'un, and when the green flag dropped, I should have really sat back and made a gap to the kart in front so I could have a clear run of getting a quick lap in. But instead, I might have just treated qualifying as a pre-race race. In fairness, there were quite a few yellow flags again, so I thought I might as well just go as fast as possible for the full 15-minute session and hope that one lap's going to be good enough for pole. I spent most of the session behind Glenn, who decided to drive like a prime Fernando Alonso to keep me behind, so I knew I was going to have to dispatch him if I wanted to set a good enough time to at least beat him, which is easier said than done when you've got Chappie doing donuts right in front of you. After a bit of wheel-to-wheel action and a failed attempt of getting past, I squeezed by in exactly the same spot one lap later, and just as I thought I'd be able to get a quick lap in before the session came to an end, I caught George up. I mean, the lap was ruined, but we had a little bit of fun, and it was a nice little overtake too. Looks like that tyre warming routine didn't work so well after all though, eh? Lad's on a spin cycle. And the reason I haven't mentioned kart numbers yet, by the way, is because we're going to be swapping karts for the final session. Anyhow, qualifying came to an end and this is how we're going to line up for the race. On pole there's me in kart 17. Alongside me on the front row there's the racing snake Josh in kart 7. Harry in kart 9 and George in kart 12 make up the second row on the grid. Chris is in 5th place in kart number 14 and Mick in kart 15 starts 6th. Carbon Raider aka Glenn is 7th in kart 13. Chappie stopped spinning long enough to set the 8th quickest time in kart 11. And Morris has no excuse when it comes to this race because he's got kart 1, which is the one I used to qualify in. He's in 9th. Liam Duggan is 10th in kart 10. Carl's pilot in kart 3 and starts in 11th position. Jack Seaman Ditchburn is 12th in kart 6. Liam Shaw, Imperial Engineering Limited, is 13th in kart 8. Brownie starts in 14th in kart 19, and bringing up the rear is Mark in kart 4, starting in 15th place. Or at least that's how it should have looked anyway. We have no idea how it happened, and neither do the staff at TeamSport, but the starting positions managed to get messed up when we lined up on the grid for the standing start. And with the session being behind schedule, we couldn't get back into the right positions. So with me starting at the front and the guy who was meant to be in 2nd place now in 5th, I thought it was only fair if I spiced things up a bit. So as the lights went out, I pulled off to the side and let everyone past, dropping me right to the back of the pack, and the chase was on. I knew by doing this there was going to be a few lads at the front like Glenn, Harry and George who were going to be able to pull out a massive lead because they were starting towards the front of the grid to begin with, so I was going to have to get through the back markers as quick as possible. It's easier said than done though when you've got 15 people all going around the same corner with cold tyres like, but I knew there was a chance that someone might spin, so I just had to keep my wits about me and keep it in a straight line until the grip came back. Unfortunately for Mr. Shaw, as we shuffled around T4 for the first time, he was hit under braking and ended up stuck up against the tyre wall. As you can see, we haven't even finished lap 1, and the field is starting to look really stretched out, but as I was looking to see who was in the lead, Mark spun out in a place where I've never seen anyone spin out before, and he kept his foot in it as well, absolutely clattering the side of me, but that was probably the best outcome for the both of us. Ouch. Crossing the line at the end of lap 1 and I'm back up into 12th position. It looks like Glenn, Harry and George have managed to clear the rest of the field and have started to pull away as a front 3, so I need to get my skates on. Lap 2 didn't really have much going on. Brownie spun downstairs, losing a couple of positions in one corner, and I thought I had a decent run on 𝙁𝘼𝙾𝙊𝙆 at turn 9, but his kart must have been running on rocket fuel. Look at the acceleration he's getting. Going into turn 3 and he ended up going a little bit wide and clipped the barrier. That left me right behind Morris. All I did was take the normal line through the slow hairpin, but his back end stepped out and he pretty much came to a standstill. And when I tapped his kart, it wedged me in a place where I thought I was going to need to be pushed out. Luckily though, I didn't lose too much time, but it did mean I'd have to overtake Brownie and 𝙁𝘼𝙀𝙁 all over again. Not ideal. Heading into the next lap, and I got a good run down the hill, re-overtaking Tom. And 𝙁𝘼𝙀𝙁 made it pretty easy for me as well a couple of corners later by spinning out. This obviously brought out the yellow flags, but when we went racing again, I could see that the leader wasn't a million miles away, even if there was still 8 karts in between me and him. Jack really bogged down on the exit of turn 2, which made things easy for me, but I knew as I progressed through the field, the drivers were going to be faster and therefore harder to overtake. And it wasn't long before I caught back up to Morris, who put me into the tyres earlier on. As we approached the up ramp, he did kinda leave some room, so I put my kart there, and he didn't really like it. So he reminded me what kart number he was in. He kept his lines tight throughout the top section and rotated his kart really well around the hairpins, not really giving me any opportunity to get past. But the yellows were waved again, and as we approached the up ramp, you can just see how bunched up everyone was. I was eyeing up an overtake on the restart, but as the lights flicked back to green, Morris waved me through, and well, I could see where the leader was, right there. On the next lap, I made a nice move into turn 4, keeping the kart tight to the apex and managing to get past Mick in the process. And I knew if Josh in kart 7 ahead of me was going to take the wide line into turn 6, I'd do him on the inside. Sure enough, that's what he did, and because he had a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner, I managed to make it stick. At this point of the race, Harry was in first, George was a close second, and Glenn was right behind them in third. There was about a 3 or 4 second gap to the group I was now in, led by Liam Duggan, and in between me and him was Chris. Now if you're close enough in karting and the guy in front of you goes for a move, you can generally get past as well as long as the next few corners are in your favour. So as I watched Chris line up a dive on the inside of Liam, I just waited patiently and let the space open up. Another way of overtaking the guy in front of you though is by getting lucky with the traffic. Chris went for a move on 𝙁𝘼𝙀𝙁𝙁, who at this point of the race is being lapped, but he didn't get the move done in time for the next corner. And when they both turned into the left-hander, they went wide, so even though I only managed to make up one position in the corner, it was the one that counted. Dropping down into the big braking zone of T2, I wasn't really looking to overtake 𝙁𝘼𝙁𝙁 there, but I got nudged in the back and that opened the space up for me. Now I wasn't sure how long we actually had left in the race at this point, so I needed to get the hammer down and catch up to the front 3 as soon as possible. Glenn had dropped back off the front 2 ever so slightly, and after a couple of laps I caught him up. I went for a move up the inside on the exit of T9, but just like Chris a few laps ago, I didn't get the move done before the next corner and ended up having to give up on the attempt. And then heading down into turn 2, I had a major brain fart and nearly spun the kart out. I just had enough room to keep going, but I had to make up all that lost time all over again. However, after yet another spinner on the up ramp which brought out the yellows for nearly a full lap, we were all bunched up again and ready for a final sprint race to the checkered flag. Everyone was doing their best to keep the tyres as warm as possible, knowing fine well they'd need every little bit of help if the green light flashed when we were downstairs. As we rounded the first corner, bang, the lights changed and we were racing. I left it really late, but I sent a move up the inside of Glenn. Whether or not that one was entirely legal is up for debate. There was some contact, but I'm going to argue and say that there was space there and I could have slowed down enough to make the corner normally, but he turned in on me. I'll let you decide. Anyway, that put me up into third position, and as the lap went on I could tell that the 2 lads in front of me weren't too bothered about me being back here and were quite happy to fight it out for track position between the 2 of them. Coming around T1 and Harry got a great run on George. Sensing if he got the braking zone wrong though, I lined up for a potential double overtake, and fuck me, call me Mystic Meg. He slid past the apex by about a metre, pushing them both wide, and then I just took my normal shallow line through the corner. I knew I'd managed to overtake George, and Harry probably could have kept his foot in through T3 to stay ahead, but he backed out, and just like that, I was in the lead. Again, I had no idea how long we had left in the race, so I just had to make sure I didn't lose concentration. 1 lap later, I started running into more traffic, but I cleared it just at the right time going into the fast top section. Mark was the next kart to clear. I'd managed to pull out a couple of seconds on second place, but I didn't want to be stuck behind him for too long. I knew that he struggled with grip on the up ramp, so I waited to make my move there, and then it was just a clear track. I also knew that the guys behind me had to get past the same karts that I did, and I was hoping that by the time they'd done that, I'd be long gone. And well, by the time they had done that, I'd opened up a decent lead. There were a few more laps, a few more overtakes, and a few more spinners, but that was the end of it. The checkered flag was out and I'd managed to go from first place to 15th back to first place again. Absolutely buzzing. Because it was a GP event, we had to take our places on the podium for the awards ceremony. George was third, Harry was second, and your boy took home the gold. Look at that hairline, man. Jesus. No, I'm not going to Turkey, I'm going to embrace the egg. I'll flash the rest of the results up on the screen now, as well as the position tracker so you can see where everyone was on what lap. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, you can drop it a like, subscribe to the channel because there's going to be plenty more karting content this year, not just here but at other venues as well. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, look at him. In his kite thing. Doesn't have a winner's medal though, does he? Alright.